Okay, give me a second.
Yeah. We also still haven't gotten flip for some reason. So we don't know sides or order.
Sorry, I was away for a second. Are we waiting on anybody still?
No, I sent the email. Let me know you guys get it. And now I think yeah, we just got flip.
Okay, Flip came out. All right. Yeah, will go ahead and just give us like 2 seconds.
Cool. Flips are done. I was being first. So if you want to send doc, we can get started.
Yeah, that's chill. Um, yeah, partner, can you send Doc real quick? Um, it is we're just reading the normal afflay.
All right, I sent the email.
All right. Are you guys received that? You're good to go? All right. Perfect. All right. Time, just let me pull up a timer. Sorry. Okay, perfect. Time will start in three, two, one. Judges, last month, the United States launched coordinated strikes on Iran, starting a war that killed American soldiers and bombed a school that killed 168 schoolgirls. According to the Pentagon itself, there was no intelligence that Iran was going to attack us first. This is what unchecked presidential war power looks like. There's no better example for the affirmative than what has happened lately. That is why we affirm. Our sole contention is stopping the bleeding. There is a reason why our Constitution gave Congress, not the president, the power to declare war. But as Lee explained, successive presidents have used vague authorizations to wage war in at least 7 countries against enemies Congress never foresaw. Going by Congress has been a complete farce, shown by the fact that only 56 current House members were even present for the 2001 vote that has been used to justify decades of Middle East forever wars. Lee reports this legal fiction being used to fund a permanent war machine that has cost taxpayers $32 million every single hour. But the problem goes past money. Stam shows there's a worsening effect at work. Every president who acts unilaterally lowers the threshold for the next one. Each extraordinary action becomes the new normal. Congress and the courts have tried to push back with doctrines and laws, but none of it has worked. That's dangerous for a specific reason. The phenomenon where a group of people care more about adhering to the consensus in a group rather than actually making necessary decisions. This is called groupthink. Rick Tui explains that the executive's national security apparatus is uniquely vulnerable to it due to homogenous leadership being insulated from outside perspectives and punishing dissent. Even worse, this groupthink is unchecked as there's no source of accountability on the decisions they make. The result of groupthink is a significantly higher chance of making mistakes. Wayne proves to be true. Vietnam, Iraq, the Bay of Pigs, the Iran rescue mission, Libya, Somalia are just a couple events that were made by small groups of people from groupthink. Affirming fixes this. Kennedy explains that outside voices, such as Congress, are what reduces groupthink in presidential decision making. This is true, especially as Congress is much larger and more directly beholden to the people. Citron proves this to be true. Congress is more peaceful and much less likely to drag us into wars. The most recent example from Iran proves this, as we know from Shepard that Congress would not have initiated current strikes on Iran. Letting Congress put a stop to these foreign deployments are important, as Whitehead reports America's forever wars hurt both America and the rest of the world alike. It puts the US $10 trillion in debt and makes the world more dangerous, creating a loop where every conflict we start demands we start another. Khan furthers that even if it has no impact on intentional conflict, because groupthink leads to more mistakes, it reduces the possibility of errors. That's important, as any miscalculation in today's age can start a chain of events that create a worldwide war. More than reducing miscalculation is eliminating misintelligence, because the president is the only one that controls what happens and thus the intelligence that is shared. The Iraq War illustrates this. Matthew shows that the intelligence community actually stripped uncertainty and dissenting agency views from the report Congress received before the vote in Iraq. This meant we went to war on an entire lie. That same pattern is playing out today. Halton-Wenger documents the Trump administration offering contradictory justifications for the Iran war. Even worse, Stewart confirms the Pentagon privately acknowledged there was no intelligence Iran planned to strike first. Fortunately, by affirming, AOB reports that this allows transparency and improves national security. It also ensures the will of the people is protected, stopping the flow of forever wars. This strengthens, not reduces, American might too. The most recent conflict with Iran proves this. Mansour highlights how despite missile strikes, assassinations, and threats from the US, Iran still did not take American might seriously. This is because they know it's the decision of just one person. In contrast, affirming solves, as Waxman reports, that when Congress authorizes force, threats become more credible to adversaries because they reflect genuine national will. For all of these reasons, we are so proud to affirm. Thank you.
Cool. We'll send Doc. Cool. I just put it in. Let me know when you guys get it. Just for a quick introduction, I'm Ethan. I'll be speaking first for Chewy. We are the Ned. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Time. Yeah, I got that. Time will start now. Krish and I are proud to negate. Resolved, the United States should eliminate the president's authority to deploy military forces abroad without congressional approval. The affirmative wants you to believe that handing Congress the keys to military power will make America safer. But before we even get to our case, we need to address the fatal flaw sitting at the heart of their entire argument. They assume that Congress would actually stop reckless wars. But Gringless 23 indicates that Congress has had the power for decades and consistently refuses to use it, not out of fear, but because they simply agree with the president. Home and Waxman 23, a Harvard political scientist and Columbia law professor, finds that lawmakers consistently defer to presidential military decisions. They don't push back, they get on board. Bendix 23 confirms that pro-war members of Congress dominate military decision-making, regardless of which party holds power. Congress is not a peacekeeping body, it is a pro-war one. And when Congress is handed a direct opportunity to stop a conflict, why would they? Fagway 26 reports that Congress had the chance to halt U.S. military action in Iran and voted it down not once, but twice. Even with the power to stop a war, they chose not to use it. That is the affirmative's core contradiction. They want to transfer power to an institution that wants the same war as the president wants. What the affirmative is calling oversight doesn't stop war, it just strengthens it. Luckily, negating prevents these harms for two reasons. First is accountability. Right now, there is one person in charge of sending troops to war, the president. That means there is one person that the public can blame, and that matters because that pressure is what forces caution. Presidents worry about elections, their legacy, and how history remembers them. When you're the only one holding the pen, you think twice before you sign. The affirmative takes that away. When 500 people share the decision, nobody owns it. Blame gets passed around until it disappears. Goodwin 26, a political journalist, confirms that Congress likes it this way. They get to approve things without ever having to answer for them. And even that broken system can be ignored entirely. CC 26 shows that Trump has already bypassed Congress and has done it repeatedly. Passing the affirmative doesn't stop that. It just makes Congress look even weaker and gives every future president a blueprint to the same thing. But even if a president wanted to work within the system, there are two easy structural ways around it. Wheeler 21, a national security law expert, explains that presidents already use private military contractors or hired soldiers who Congress have zero oversight over. And Fisher 22 shows that President Clinton used NATO and UN forces to run full military operations without asking Congress at all. So the affirmative's big solution already has two giant holes. But it gets worse. Those workarounds aren't just inconvenient, they're deadly. As Civic 22, a civilian protections organization, finds that private military contractors are directly connected to human rights, torture, and civilian deaths. Second is funding. The affirmative frames congressional approval as a brake on war, but history proves otherwise. Since Congress agrees with the president, they'll fund them fully. Emerson 9 explains that congressional authorization permits military action, opens the budget and the supply lines, dramatically increasing the size and strength of conflict. Han 16 confirms that increased military funding leads to longer and more expanded wars. And we've seen exactly where this leads. Bomboy 23 shows that when Congress authorized military action in Vietnam, it didn't contain the conflict. It grew into one of the largest and most devastating wars in American history. The affirmative is pouring fuel on the fire. When Congress already agrees with the president, formal approval power doesn't do anything. It just means more hands on the gas can. Look, don't let them stand up and give you a bunch of reasons as to why Trump is bad. We are trying to ensure the system works for future presidents as well, and to protect that future, Christian and I are proud to negate. Cool. Are you guys good for cross?
Yeah. All right. Time will start in three.
Sorry guys, before you begin, I just got an important email from the officials. I'm not sure if the other judges got it too. So, a judge from institution Shui Independent is holding up the MSPF gold and silver finals. And so by policies and procedures, if a judge from an institution is not present, this is grounds for removal of one team from the institution. So if a judge does not arrive within the next 5 minutes, the Chewy independent team will be disqualified. Did the other judges get this email? Yeah. Okay. Um. So I'm not sure. Do we continue?
Wait, just give me 1 second. He's like kind of my coach. I can just quickly message him. 1 second. Let me try to
Yeah.
resume.
Yeah. Okay. So let's
Wait,
put this on pause for
if you
now.
guys can continue with Cross, I can just like quickly just message
Okay.
him. Okay, yeah. We
All
can
right,
just
is that
continue with
fine
the
with
debate.
judges?
Yes.
All right.
Judges, are you guys fine with that? Just continuing across. All right, perfect. You ready to go?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay,
Time
perfect.
starts.
Okay, do you agree that starting a war is different from, let's say, continuing or supporting a war?
No.
You don't think that's different.
No, because Congress does both.
So you're telling me in our world, Congress will be the one starting these wars?
Yes.
When was the last time Congress started a war or declared
Vietnam, which was the last so
Vietnam?
sure, 9/11, I can give you, for example, the war on terror, right?
No, 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 no,
Uh,
no. What was the last time Congress declared war? Just
sure, they
it's
don't have to declare war. There's something called an authorization of military force, which they A
okay.
did in the
So
Gulf
so
of
what
Tonkin
is
resolution. Sorry. Can I
Again,
give this history?
you just claim. Sorry, you're not really getting to my question. You just claim Congress will be the one starting the wars, not
Yeah.
giving the president
Can I give
authority
my
to
examples
wars.
if that's
No, I
possible?
just want to know when was the last time Congress started a war
Yeah,
or declared
I'm
a war.
giving my examples. I'm answering a question. If I could
Okay,
answer your
sure,
question,
sure.
one was Vietnam. President Johnson initiated the Gulf of Tonkin resolution. He said, "Hey, Congress, North Vietnam has attacked us. We want authorization." And Congress deliberates and says yes. Post
So who
9/11, when
started?
the
Who
war on
started?
terror,
Like again, you're not really addressing my point. All of these examples you're giving are things that the president did first and then said, "Hey,
sorry,
Congress, support us."
President
This is
Johnson,
not.
President Johnson did not send troops to Vietnam until he got congressional authorization.
You literally just said your own
Yes,
words.
President
President,
Johnson initiated the Gulf
yes,
of Tonkin resolution, which
okay.
happened because North Vietnam attacked. He shot,
So
took
who
the
is the one
proposal.
prompting the action for this war?
Wait, there's no prompting. Wait.
So you're telling me
Judges,
Congress would have
judges.
initiated this Vietnam War if
Let's
President
let's make
Johnson
one
didn't
thing very
initiate this?
clear. Just because the affirmative happens does not mean the president gets zero say in these conflicts. The president is
Yeah,
still the commander
yeah,
in chief of the military, which is
understand.
why even if you don't believe that that the president prompted Congress, that's the prompting will still
Sure.
happen under
Yeah,
the
you can
affirmative
take a
world.
question. Yeah,
Okay,
it's not.
cool,
Yeah, you can take a question.
great. Um, so we both established that prompting still happens in the affirmative world. When prompting still happens, and we've already established that Congress and the president work together on military policies, such as after 9/11, can you tell me what incentives does Congress have to not follow the president?
To not follow the precedent. So let me ask you, do you think Congress was able to
Right, can
follow
you
the
answer my
precedent?
question? I don't think
Yeah.
asking a question
Absolutely,
with
absolutely. I don't think Congress, there's so many instances where Congress will not follow the president. They didn't follow the president in Venezuela. They had no idea what was going on. Trump just initiated
wait,
whatever he
I'm
wanted, whenever he
asking
wanted.
what is the incentive for them not
Again,
to? Answer the
because
question, please.
they don't know is the fact. Like they don't
Wait,
have
Venezuela wasn't a war.
until after the fact. Okay, so let's look at even Iran. Trump was the one who set off these
Yes,
initial
and
attacks. And
Congress
then
had the chance to vote
yeah,
it down
because
twice,
they
and they
had
both
to.
times they failed.
They were forced to. They didn't know of the initial strikes until that Trump made them. That's time for
Okay,
close.
and they could have stopped it twice, and they chose not to.
Time
Yeah,
for
that's
cross.
time. Cool.
All right, I'm gonna
And
take running prep before a battle.
yeah, one more thing for the administrative stuff. I'm pretty sure a judge has gotten into the room, so I think we should be good on that. You can just check in with USAFO.
Judges, do you want a second to check that? Hey, judges, are we waiting on like confirmation for the judge situation or like I'm a little unsure what's
Yeah, I still haven't gotten a response yet on whether if we're good to go or not.
I
Okay.
just I just got a response from him. He said he's in the round now. Everything should be fine. We can continue.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, so we can
Yeah.
continue.
All right, perfect.
USAFO just confirmed in the chat that we're good. If y'all want to take prep.
Yeah, we'll take prep starting when I mute.
Wait, have you not been taking prep this whole time?
We've been waiting for the resolution to be resolved.
Okay, sure.
Okay, I'm gonna just say that was a minute of prep. If everyone's ready, I'll begin my rebuttal speech on my first word.
Oh, can you send your evidence, please?
No evidence, just analytics.
Okay, great.
Yeah. Time starts in 3, 2, 1, start. They claim we have an inherent contradiction, but we don't, and I'll explain it right now. But first, keep in mind throughout this entire round that just last month, the United States launched strikes on Iran that were completely and wholeheartedly by the president's unilateral action. Congress would not have taken these authorizations on their own, and this has resulted in the killing of multiple American service members and the deaths of 168 schoolchildren. But let's go into their specific arguments. They begin by saying that Congress has had the power to control the purse and the length of a war. However, the crucial difference to understand here is the president's decision to start a war drags Congress in by default. If the president decides to start a war halfway around the globe, Congress cannot afford to just leave it unfunded and leave American soldiers to be massacred. That's not how it works. They're forced to fund it because America can't lose a situation that it's gotten itself into due to the president's own whims. We can't let the president start these wars, and that's the core thesis of the affirmative case. Our case is that wars should not be decided on the whim of one man. Wars should not be done without the explicit consent, debate, and discussion that goes on with Congress. And that is why you should vote for the affirmative. More specifically, they say that Congress has provided prior authorizations, such as AUMFs. However, recall from our case that specifically in 2002, when the AUMF for Iraq was passed, the intelligence report that the president's national security team submitted to Congress as justification was false. It omitted key objections. It omitted key information that proved that Iraq was not developing weapons of mass destruction. And that's why the groupthink apparatus that plagues the executive branch is a persistent threat to America's credibility and ultimately results in the spilling of more blood. Specifically, on the support of Congress, they say that Congress supported Trump's war. However, we read evidence from Case that Congress would not have started the war. It's pretty simple. Congress is currently a Republican majority that backs the president. They're going to back the actions he takes. That doesn't mean they will start the actions independently. And that's the crucial difference you have to ingrain into your mind here. Once a war is started, it has numerous downstream effects. We want to prevent those wars from happening in the first place. Keep that in your minds while you deliberate today. But more specifically, they say that Congress would already want to do these wars independently. However, consider the fact that Congress is much more proximate to its voters and is ultimately more reliant on public support. Think about it. You can call your local representative, you can email them. You can't do the same for the president. The situation is that people will know what their Congress members talk about. So Congress has the incentive to not start wars in the first place. They've been using the president all along, but post-AF, Congress won't start wars because they know how unpopular it is. On private military forces specifically, look at the wording of the resolution. The wording of the resolution says the president may not deploy military forces abroad without congressional authorization. The definition of military force includes private military contractors. The word in the resolution is not armed forces, it's military force. And insofar as private military organizations are armed, heavily equipped, and organized, they fall under this definition. For these reasons, vote affirmative.
Well, it's gonna be some writing prep time. We'll start now.
All
That
right,
was 110.
okay. Great. Um, let me send the evidence really quickly, and we'll start.
Well, also, can you guys send the evidence that says PMCs aren't military forces? There's no evidence on that?
Yeah, it was an implication from like
Yeah.
the colloquial definition.
Sure, okay. Okay, great. The evidence is in. Let me know when everyone is good to go. Meanwhile, again, my name is Krish. I'm the second speaker on Chewy Independent, and we're negating the resolution in this debate. My speech will just be cleaning up this debate. I'll be starting on my arguments and going to theirs. Just let me know when all three of my judges and two opponents are ready. I'll start.
Judges ready?
Okay, Jay, Mr. Reeves, are you guys ready? Okay, great. Potomac, you guys good? Okay, awesome. I will start my first part. They want you to keep in mind the Iran strikes, but we would love to talk about that because Congress had two opportunities to stop this war and failed both times. War is a fundamental desire. It is a constant feature in this world. We have the time and time again, and we have tried to intervene in conflicts around the world, which of many were supported by Congress. This includes their own examples like Vietnam or even their examples like Iran. Given this debate should not be about stopping or continuing war, but making sure that war and conflicts do not become worse. Look, they love to paint Congress as an innocent bystander being led astray by the president. However, two key things. First, our conceded Bendix evidence from case analyzes 5 decades of intervention and finds that Congress loves war every single time. These war hawks are so powerful that they lobby against the president, not the other way around. But second, even if you want to believe that the president is leading them astray, this does not change in the affirmative. The president still has the power to influence Congress post-AF. Remember the analysis that Ethan makes. This is what they admit in Two Cross. Keep in mind, this directly destroys every point that they have made, both on our case and their own. All their logic from case is backed up by decades of historical data. Don't let them respond to it in first summary. But now, let's start on the responses specific that they make to our case. All of them fall flat. First, they claim that Congress gets dragged in, but this makes no sense. If there's no war by voting negative, that means there's no servicemen in Congress dying in the first place. And remember the analysis that I just said. Second, they talk about the presidential lies during the 2002 AMF, but judges, these lies will persist in the affirmative. Remember, they have conceded that presidents will continue to have a say in decision making, which means that risks of deception remain. Voting AF doesn't mean that any of these issues are solved. Third, they say that Congress listens to the people. Remember, the people elect the president. That means presidents must also listen to people. The president, I could send the president an email right now, same as a congressional man. Fourth, military forces, on the argument that military forces includes PMCs. Judges, we have read you evidence that Congress itself does not consider PMCs to be military forces. This is from case and from the U.S. military book. Now, let's go on to their arguments. First, their argument on wars becomes even more deadly with Congress. History, humans' best alibi, finds this. That's their own Waxman evidence that they read. Our evidence is a historical analysis, whereas their Citron evidence only accounts for one example, which is Iran. Waxman 24. Prior studies of congressional political checks use of force raise the possibility that presidents are more likely to escalate the magnitude, riskiness, or duration of a congressional authorized military intervention.